in order for me to say this out loud, because as soon as you say out loud something that you felt is shameful, then the shame disappears. Or at least it diminishes a little bit. It just gonna goes down a little bit. Hello everybody. So this episode is going to be a solo episode, and I thought that I'm going to talk a little bit about a topic that came up recently when I had a discussion with a friend. And it is about changing therapists. So the reason why I thought that I'm going to bring this here is because we've already talked about many personal development and healing techniques that I suppose many people around the world use. But there is one thing that was really crucial in my life, and I think that's something that, I think that we can talk about this. I think it's going to be an interesting topic. What happened to me a couple of years ago, I went to my first therapy. I went to a therapist, and she was recommended through a friend. I get really good feedbacks on her. Everybody said like, oh, she's really, really easy to talk to, and she's the best, and she, there's always a recommendation, right? So I think with therapists, you always go with the people who were referred to. So you don't just, many people, I don't know how you do it, but that's my imagination. That's what you do. So I ended up at this therapist. I'm not going to say that there were no helpful times, but there were a lot of weird things. So I live, as many of you know, I'm a nomad, so and I'm doing this for quite some time, since 2015. I think I went to therapy 2016, and she started to question. I think she started to question my lifestyle. But what happened is that when I went to the sessions, she would say, "Oh, you are different than you were when you were here 2 weeks ago. You speak faster. You are more this and that." And then she would always indicate that this is something that a bipolar person would do, that this is like a manic episode of mine. But she never called me bipolar. She would always say that my behavior is signaling, is similar to what a bipolar person would do. So I think we went on for mainly, I would say, half a year with her saying these things to me. And I started to feel really uncomfortable and suspicious. And I was waiting, every occasion when I went, I was waiting for, a diagnosis that she finally is going to say like, all right, so Bori, this is what's happening to you. You have this thing going on in your brain, and this is why you're sad, and this is why you're happy sometimes. And I have ups and downs. I guess everybody has that. And my life is a little bit bipolar in that sense, when I go and hang out in a tropical paradise for a long time, and then I come home and it's dark and it's rainy in Budapest, and I can't find my place, and I'm tired, and of course I have my down parts. Actually, I do have mild depression. And then at one point, when she still didn't come up with any kind of, she didn't say anything. She kept saying like, I think you might have something, blah blah blah. I was like, well, do you want to talk about this? Do you want to tell me, is there anything going on that you think I have? And then she said, well, I don't believe in diagnosis, which was really weird compared to how many times she indicated that I have something wrong with me. And then I said that it might be at this point, it might be useful for me, because it might. And then she just looked at me and she said, well, then you have bipolar. So that was how I got my diagnosis and how I was treated. Thank God, not with the medicine, because as she didn't believe in diagnosis, she didn't believe in medication either. So I never got any medication, thank God. And towards the end of my session, my therapy with her, like the years that we worked together, she went to like a really I would say spiritual way. We did a lot of meditation. At one point I needed to make like a little statue out of, I don't know what's the name of it. So yeah, I needed to like do like crafts, and then we went outside on like in a garden, and we did like this movement meditation, and I was like, can I just talk about this maybe? So that was the end of it with her. And then I thought for a long time that I have this, and because of course I had ups and downs, I was happy sometimes and I was low sometimes, so I really thought that this is something that I actually have. So a couple of years later, it started to bother me. Do I actually have this? There was a lot of tools that I started to use in order to keep me balanced. So eventually it became a good thing, because I learned how to stabilize myself, and one of my courses is based on the methods that I learned from other people, and from all sorts of different things that I used in order to stay in balance. But it was not something that I wanted to live with for the rest of my life. Many people kept coming back to me, and when I said like, hey, I have bipolar, they were like, no, you don't. And even close friends of mine, and everybody's like, well, yeah, you can be sad sometimes, but are you in a manic state? And if you don't know what is bipolar, they do have, they tend to have this really big roller coaster, and many people use it the wrong way. So they think that bipolar is somebody who has like changes in the mood for like in a day like several times. That's not true. There's different bipolars, and I don't want to get into it, especially that I'm not a therapist, and I'm spoiler alert, not even bipolar. But there's a lot of downsides to it. And first of all, when I had a mild depression, then I started to think like, maybe I need to have like professional medical help with this, and maybe I need to have like a proper diagnosis. This is one thing. And then the other thing that I for what I started to seek real medical help, or another medical help, was because I wanted to do ayahuasca. And those, actually, I don't think that ayahuasca is not recommended for anything else but bipolar. So I talked to a few one shaman, and that shaman was like, well, we can maybe give you a little bit different dosage, or like, and I'm like, oops, I'm not going to go, like, I'm not going to be a part of the experiment. I do need to have like a proper diagnosis. So then I went to my second therapist, and with her we did come up with a few things. I get like my non-bipolar diagnosis, and she was nuts. Now she's double the price that I paid for the first one, which I don't really care if I So she's doubling the price. She costs me more, but I don't care, and she's recommended by many friends. So then we started therapy. How we start is that she's pointing. I walk into the room, and she sits down in front of the computer, and I'm looking at her like, where should I sit? And then she's pointing to a chair in front of the computer as well. And I was like, maybe we can sit somewhere where it's going to be comfortable. This should have been a red flag, guys. Like, this should have been the moment that I'm like, all right, maybe you don't know what you're doing. But I stayed, because there's many people who I might know who went there, and then they had like super like amazing results. So we started talking, and then she tried to figure out what's wrong with me, because of course I was referred to, like I walked in there like, I think I don't have this thing, and I need like a professional person telling me what's happening, and is everything okay with me. And this was, I think, like 4 years in from the previous occasion. So she played a little bit like as if I was some sort of project, or like a detective movie, and she would say, oh, you have like a valid real connection with your parents? Are you actually having friends for ages? Like, do you have still your high school friends? oh, bummer that it's not borderline that I thought you have. And she was generally upset that she missed the second hint of like what's wrong with me. I stayed a little bit longer with her. I would say a couple of months, but there was one time when I was complaining that I'm struggling to help a friend. This friend just recently got her baby, and she was having a hard time. And I was like, I brought this into therapy because it got into our relationship with this friend as well. So it was really difficult, and I really wanted to help her, but I didn't know how. So I brought this into our session. And what she said to me was that I'm out of my mind because this person, this friend of mine, is going to not only kill her baby, but she's also going to kill herself after that if I don't do something. And it's going to be my fault. So I was in tears, and I didn't really know what to say. I was absolutely broken definitely for days after this. And thank God at those times I was part of a mastermind group, and I brought this into my mastermind group, 3 entrepreneur girls, and we talked about life, and we talked about other stuff as well. So then I brought this into the session, like, guys, this is what my therapist told me, that it's going to be my fault, and I'm like floored with this information. What do you think I should, like, what's happening? And then this friend of mine, Lavinia, she goes like, well, I have bad news for you. You need to quit your therapist. You need to fire your therapist. And guys, I never thought that I can actually fire my therapist. With the previous one, it was like more like, fading it out and between meditations. But with this particular one, I should have stopped going to her, but I didn't. I felt like, okay, she already knows what I'm going through. She already knows the backstory. We talked quite a lot about what's going on with me, and I just can't start over with another therapist, and it's going to be so difficult. So then I stayed, and then a couple of weeks later, I don't actually know how long later, I get into a crisis, like a huge family crisis, and I messaged her saying like, okay, I'm in the middle of something super serious, and it's really, really important for me to I need help. And she told me that she's she can have a call with me the next day between 4 and 4:30. It didn't sound like between 4 and 4:30. It was like around 4 and 4:30. So I'm sitting in front of my computer. We were supposed to be doing an online call, and she's not there. And I message her, and like 2 hours later, she messages me saying like, oh, like, listen, I might not be available. Like, I don't think I can do it today. Like, how about tomorrow? Maybe I can call you from the airport. I'm not kidding. She wanted to call me from the airport with a situation where I said I'm in a crisis. So what I did was that I said like, all right, this was a Friday. She suggested then Saturday from the airport. I said, you know what, we have a session on Monday, so I'm just going to hop on Monday. And on Monday morning I woke up, and I thought, I'm not sure if she remembers that we have a session. So then I realized, oh my goodness, I have zero trust in this woman that she's going to show up. And that's pretty much the basic thing that you should ask from a therapist, to like be there for you, but not like whenever. Obviously, it's not like you can call a therapist whenever you 24/7. But when you have a scheduled thing, I hope that she's going to be there. This is ridiculous. So thank God I was referred to my therapist now. So this is the happy ending, and this was 3 years ago. I managed to get an appointment with somebody else so I could fire this therapist. And just to note it, I texted her saying, listen, I don't feel safe in this relationship with you, and I'm not sure if you're going to be there. And oh, by the way, she's been late various times from the occasions. She's been late. There were people coming into her session sometimes. She's been like, there were so many things that she did wrong. It's like, and we worked together only for half a year. So like, I messaged her like, okay, this is it. I'm breaking up with you. She never answered. This was 3 years ago. And she never freaking answered. Can you believe this? Yep. So that's how I fired my second therapist. And when I finally arrived to this woman I am right now, she's super expensive, guys. I think I never heard about anybody as expensive as she is here in Hungary. But the price of not being misdiagnosed, and maybe that's not the word, and the price of trust itself. So yeah, maybe I was unlucky, and maybe somebody's lucky and find a cheap therapist who's like responsible and helpful and knows what they doing. That was not the case with me. But just what I wanted to say with this. So first of all, when I changed to the third one, I already knew what I'm going there with. So our first session, because I was afraid that I'm going to like start over and say everything. Here's a misconception. You don't go to therapists so that you catch up with the stories. You already coach yourself up. So obviously there was some stuff that I learned from the previous work that I did. And also, I'm quite self-reflective. So there was obviously some stuff that I learned from this. I went there and I just like, in 20 minutes, I could just sum up. This is where I am standing right now. I have these problems. I think these are the root cause. This is why I'm in therapy. And this is what I'm searching for the solution. And she caught up so fast. Like the things that she told me on the very first meeting, I still wonder how many times she told me, like how many things she told me in the first session that I needed time to realize as my life went on. So she said a few things about my family structure, how it works, that I really didn't believe her in the beginning. I'm not going to say everything because, I need some secrets as well. I'm coming out too much on this podcast and yeah. So I'm also came out right now as a fake bipolar, misdiagnosed bipolar. So that was one of the things that many people are, I think, afraid of. Like, is it difficult to catch up? Another thing is that I'm a loyal person. Like, if you know me, you know that I'm really loyal. I think, yeah, most of the time. So I think I'm a loyal person. I was like seeing the comments, like, I did this. No, that's not gonna happen. But many people feel that if they started to go to one therapy, they cannot change it because it's like cheating on your therapist. Many people feel that it's cheating. I did feel a little bit that I'm cheating on my therapist when I started the new one, and that first one was like a walking red flag. The second one, sorry. So how do you know that you're not in a good place? And I guess it can go for many things. Today I was listening to an old interview with Vigh or with Tim Ferriss, and he says something really cool. If you think, by the way, he's like the executive producer, I don't know what kind of producer of The Office, one of my favorite shows. And he says, when you are thinking about the money, meanwhile you're doing a job, you are not in a good workplace. Like that's not something that should you keep. That's what you keep thinking when you're working. That's not a good sign. Let's just put it this way. And I think it can go to like choosing a therapist as well. So when you're after coming out, like both times with my previous like bad choices, when I came out from the sessions, in the first one I was like, shit, is it working? I don't feel anything. And the second one I came out with, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm paying for this. So both times I felt, I can't believe I'm paying for this. The first one, it was more like, no. Like, it was cheap, but I still paid for, meditation classes. And then the second one, I was just angry that I paid for this person who was late 25 minutes of a 50-minute session. And yeah, so this is one of the things that if you feel that it's not working, it might not work. It might not work. It's might not working. That's the news. And I know it's tiring to find someone new, and to get out of a relationship, it's always really tiring. And it's also really bad to pay a lot of money for therapy, but it's also worse to pay a lot of money for bad therapy. So if you feel that you're not in the right place, and this goes to all of the relationships around you, you might not be in the right relationship. Yeah. So ever since I'm with this last woman, I learned so much. I grew so much. It's incredible, and I never once regretted the money that I'm paying right after the session. Like, I'm just paying it, and it's like worth every penny. So this goes about like the prices, and this goes about about changing the therapies. And there's one more thing that I wanted to talk here. So many friends of mine choose to go to coaches instead of therapists, and I wanted to talk a little bit about about coaches and about therapists. So after, I think, working as a coach for 3 years, I admitted myself that I might be a coach. It just all happened. I did not want to be a coach, but that became my path, and I still really don't want to call myself like that. The reason why is because we have a really bad, it has a really bad connotation to it. I think why I had this feeling towards them is mainly because some people don't know where to turn to, like what is the situation and to whom to go to. And it's possible that a coach helps you with various things. And then I think you're in the right place. What I don't like is when there's a coach who does not know where are their boundaries, like what can they still handle and what they cannot handle. It's not about only the paper, it's about the harm that you can cause to this other person without the necessary knowledge. And I think when we are talking about life coaching, there's so many areas where a coach can help, and I'm like running courses where I help people define their goals and reach their goals and learn how to be more productive and feel how to get like a more authentic life. But when it gets to trauma, it's not a coach's. I don't really think that it's a coach's territory. There's other tools that I think there's amazing for trauma, including breathwork and tantra and ayahuasca, and there's so many things that I think are really amazing. But it's also really, really cool to have speech therapy with a therapist. I'm a big fan. And just about just one thing that I wanted to say, one more thing about a little bit about what was good for, because I brought this whole therapy and I brought ayahuasca here, and there was one point in my ayahuasca journey, which I'm going to make an episode for sure. But there was this one point where I felt I saw something shameful, and it wasn't shameful, by the way. It was something that I felt shame, and then I heard Mama ayahuasca telling me, now this, we are not going to work. Like this, what you just like feel right now, what you see like in your past that you have a shame around, you take this to your therapist, and you tell this to your therapist. And like I came out from the night and from my ceremony, and I had a call with my therapist next week, and I said like, all right, so well, she knew that I do this because of course I told her like I need you to say that I don't have bipolar in order so that I can go to my ayahuasca trip. And so then I go to my therapist and I tell her what happened, and then this shameful part of it. So I tell her what happens, and imagine that the moment I start to say this, and when I managed to say this out loud, I felt the shame disappear. I felt how it just and the reason why I was sent to speech therapy by ayahuasca apparently to talk about this. It's not called speech therapy. I'm so sorry about this, but you know what I mean. So it's in order for me to say this out loud, because as soon as you say out loud something that you felt is shameful, then the shame disappears, or at least it diminishes a little bit. It just gonna goes down a little bit. So yeah, I really enjoyed my plant medicine journey as well. And then I think it was a really interesting way of showing how a relationship can also heal. And I think a therapy is actually a healing relationship in your life. So if you don't feel that this relationship is healing you, it's time for you to leave and go for another one. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I wanted to say today about, changing therapists. And I hope that you're going to find the person who's going to help you in your journey. And I hope that you're already in the journey and with the right person in every aspect of your life. Thank you for listening, and see you next week.